Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Safari Pedal Show. I'm your host, Abby. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Safari Podcast Zoo YouTube Crazy Thing Wild bandwagon. It's great to have you. I have been anticipating this episode for a hot minute now, let me tell you. And I'm very excited, especially for today's guest. Darianna Everett is going to be on the show. She's a producer, a songwriter, artist, she's a content creator, she does so many cool things, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing about her journey, lessons that she's learned, also of course tips she has for people like me that are just starting out, and also hearing how she balances all of the many audio hats that she wears. She does a lot of cool stuff. I love her music. I'm just really excited to learn more and to hear more and to chat, and I feel like there's not much more I can add to the intro, so okay, guys, please give a very warm Safari welcome to Darianna Everett.
Hi.
What's up?
Hey, we're here. We're doing it. This is so fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Before we dive into today's episode and chat, let's first start off with who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I am Darianna Everett, like you said. I am a singer, songwriter, producer. I also do audio engineering. I'm kind of a bit of a nerd. I love all things sound, bioacoustics, anything to do with like how sound affects the body. I do music for my living, and that's so fun.
Very much so. That's incredible. So because you do so many cool things, I kind of want to dive in and hear like what got you into audio and what came first in the chain for you? Because you do the engineering, the artist thing, you do all the things.
I feel like most artists today have to. I mean, you don't have to do all the things, but when you do all the things, you kind of are able to expand a lot faster and do so much more. I actually started with songwriting. So I started composing music when I was like 6 on the piano and then wrote songs. And from there, I was also in choirs. I sucked at singing. I was not a natural talent whatsoever. I trained a lot. So I did jazz, gospel, opera, musical theater, and then I did bel canto, which is Pavarotti's vocal technique. At which point I found like my voice a lot more, which is cool. At the same time, my dad, who among many other things, was a drummer and did audio engineering. So he would record me, and then he kind of got me into using DAWs. So I started with Cubase and Reason, but like very old Cubase and Reason when it was like super cool. Now it's getting to be cool again, but for a few years it was like, oh, what is this? And while I was starting to do production a bit, it really came from me working with different producers and hearing what was in my head, and then not being able to communicate it with the producer and be like, that isn't quite right. So it was just out of kind of need and me wanting to explore how I could write my song better. And from there, music production turned into audio engineering. I went to Recording Arts Canada, which is an audio engineering school. Along the way, I recorded some songs with DJs in France, which did all right. Yeah, I've been doing content for Recording Arts Canada for a few years now.
That's awesome. So kind of like what was your journey like into content creation? Like how did that meet your audio thing?
Yeah, well, it started actually in the middle of COVID. I was so frustrated with my home studio and I kind of needed to redo it. And I was like, you know what? I'm alone at home. I am wanting to connect with the world to a degree. Why don't I start a YouTube channel? I think I published all of like 3 episodes before I lost all of the recording of the rest of the studio I did, which was so annoying. And then I like gave up on it. But the school was looking for a content creator. And I was like, well, I did these YouTube videos. Maybe I'll just say I could do some videos for them or content, whatever, could be fun. And they actually really liked my videos and were like, great, come on. Do lots of content, audio engineering content. And my studio makeover included like speaker placement and basic things that I learned at school and from my dad and through experience and lots of research. So kind of just like naturally progressed from there. And I've been helping them with their channel for, a little over I think I started in 2022. Yeah,
that's so fun. Guys, you got to check out the studio makeover. Don't miss it.
Well, it's not complete though. That's the whole sad thing is I had edited a bunch of episodes, but for some reason, I don't know if this ever happened to you when you're editing things. I was using DaVinci Resolve and all of a sudden, all of my projects vanished and there was no way to retrieve them. So I had about 4 other episodes I had edited, planned, released, and they just, so it is an incomplete series,
Oh my
unfortunately.
Wait, how did it like randomly disappear on you?
My computer crashed and I think it was in the middle of backing up. And so what it was in the middle of backing up was my projects and there was no way of retrieving them. The files I could retrieve were corrupted. And so it was just to restart it. And I didn't have the heart to, so I just moved on.
I'm just like trying to think like how like in the context of the show, like 4 episodes. I feel stressed thinking about it. I'm so sorry. It's really rough. Like, in addition to the fact that you do so many cool things, like, let's dive into your music.
Yeah,
you got
sure.
style, you got sound. I've been really dying to know, like, the songs you do have out, like, how being a producer influenced, like, everything. I'm just so curious.
Totally. Well, what was fun is those songs I actually recorded in my bedroom studio and I recorded all of the vocal parts for it. So all the harmonies. How often it works with like DJs is they'll send me a top, like a beat, and then I have to write a top line for it. At which point I'll just track whatever comes to mind. Whatever, like the first thing I'm like, okay, what does the song feel like? Instinct, let's go. And I think of it kind of in terms of a songwriter, what feels good, and melody is kind of the main focus in anything that I work on. From there, I think being a producer and being able to have the capacity to record myself and have the capacity to really play around with harmonies, it allows me to just be an adventurer and try things that are a lot more bold and feel really good about the end result. So yeah, it was lots of fun. And those projects, they've had the life of their own, which is really, really cool. And yeah, it's fun to see how they've evolved and how different people have different stories with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, like how did like those opportunities come about? Like what made the connection there?
Oh, this is a funny story. It was through my little YouTube channel again. I had posted a few covers, and one of them, which I now removed because it was just very old, was a Minnie Riperton cover, which is like the Loving You song. It was a mashup with Frank Ocean, and I was singing in the whistle register. And these guys that I was jamming with in Montreal showed it to a manager of an artist. And as they were showing the song, me singing the whistle register blew up their speakers. And this manager was like, wow, that's really cool. I'm going to reach out to this chick. And then I started working on Don't Matter with them, which was the first song that came out. And it was the group Cherokee. And that song got released, like it got leaked, and it was leaked by Bondax on a Mixmag set. And at the time, Mixmag was like super a big deal. After that, it kind of just started to have a life of its own. FKJ did a really cool remix of it. And from there, I worked on with like Cherokee's 2 people. One half of them became Darius. And so I worked on Hot Hands with Darius, which then had a whole life of its own. And then the other song, Chérie, came out 2 years ago, which was nice to work with him again. So a lot of the same person that's like, out and about, but yeah.
That's awesome. Like how did that feel for you? Just like the fact that these songs just like, it just seems like it's snowballed into like this thing. Like how was that as an experience?
It, to me, it was a little shocking. Not that I don't think the songs are fun or whatever, but in terms of my connection to them, because I recorded it alone in my studio, I didn't really think it would ever turn into anything. I was just like, oh, this is fun, getting to work with cool people. Oh, this is fun, doing it via the internet. Wow, this is so like new age and cool, space age, fun stuff. And then it just turned into something that people started resonating with. And I'm like, okay, whoa, this is really crazy. I remember at the time, I think within the first day of it being released or like first few days, it got like 30,000 plays. And for me, I was like, what? 30,000 plays? Like that many people listen to this? And now it's in like, I don't even want to say how many. It's crazy. I mean, it's fun, but yeah, no, it's definitely a weird experience that feels outside of myself, but also really fun that that's part of my story.
Because the songs took on such a life of their own and you're doing the content and the audio engineering, like, how has it been balancing all of the hats that you wear? Like, as a career?
It's been interesting. I think one of the projects I've been working most on has been a sound healing project that I'm super, super passionate about. And so that's a whole different hat that I wear. And that's what I'm wearing a lot of the time. So, content creation, I find a really good way because I know when I started producing, there weren't that many content creators doing really cool audio channels that I could follow and find tutorials on. Getting to find information, I'd often go to my dad or trial and error. And it's been really fun to think of it as a great way to pass on little tips and tricks I've learned along the way. A lot of them was me just figuring out what I'm doing and be like, oh, this works. Okay, note. And then from there, being able to share that with people that are up and coming. I find it so, so cool. I actually find it such a fun medium to be a content creator. In terms of artists, I think it's like you kind of have to be a content creator to be an artist these days, which kind of sucks because being a content creator is also kind of a full-time job. But at the same time, it's such a cool way to be able to connect with people. Like never before has it been so easy to build human connection in a very weird and digital and distant way. It's still like human connection and you can touch so many people so far away. It's so wild. We live in a really crazy time.
So true. I'm really curious, like, what have been some, you can say, lessons, learning curves, moments that have stuck out to you that you've learned from?
One of the things that I had to really work on in myself is moving out of a fear base when it comes to like putting myself out there or when it comes to really doing anything, if you think about it. Like we live in such a state of fear, whether it be like news, life, money, relationships, friendships, anything. There's like a lot of, oh, if I don't do this, then that will happen. Oh, that, and it's just, that is so much clutter. And it often will stop you from really just taking a step forward. And so by going in and just saying like, oh, well, if I fail, that's fine. And to be comfortable with failing is probably one of the biggest lessons because when you fail faster, you're going to get better faster. And it's going to be so much better because then you're going to be brave enough to try all sorts of things that you maybe wouldn't have tried or put yourself in situations where you're like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to try and I'm going to try publicly. Ooh. It ends up being something that afterwards you're like, hey, good learning experience. Sucked, but I learned something. And if I can do that and fail at that, I can do so many things better. So I'd say like, yeah, learning to fail faster was a big one and facing that fear and just realizing it's a muscle. You just kind of got to like, whatever, jump over it, on to the next thing.
I also love that. And usually a lot of the time people are like too wrapped up in themselves to like really notice like how much of a fail it actually was. So it might not even be as bad as you think if you fail in public.
Also, even if it's as bad as you think or worse, it kind of just makes you human. And a lot of the time people are like, whoa, that person's an actual human? Great. I love humans. Let me like support them. Or oof, that sucked. I'm going to support them. You know, it's like any way you spin it, it's kind of a win because either it gives you publicity and shame, but you still get publicity, or there's just a way that people will reach out and connect. And through so many failures, you can't really see them as failures. They're learning, just like being human, like we fail all the time. And that's so cool because we get to learn all the time if we want to. If we don't want to learn, then it sucks because you're repeating the fails.
Yeah. That's already a different cycle. Since this show in general is centered around like the idea of starting out and not necessarily knowing things or many things, do you kind of have either a piece of advice or something you'd want to say to people that are really starting out?
I'd say the fail faster is a great one. That like, don't be afraid of failure. Failure can be, if you choose to look at it that way, your best friend because it's not really ever failing. It's like learning. What was really helpful for me, and it might not be the same for everyone, was looking at music and experiencing music as a system. So looking at it a little bit more macro and seeing and understanding how sound moves, how speakers work, how microphones work, And also then seeing the song from the point of view of a songwriter, and then seeing how I can serve the song in a way and allowing it to unfold. A lot of the time we go in with a preconceived notion that we want a song to be a certain way, or like we like this artist, let's try and do something in that style. And to allow yourself the experience of almost putting on your explorer hat, your archaeology, digging out a treasure, and that treasure is a song. And it's fine if it sounds like crap. You know, the whole process is like you're gonna get it to sound better, and trust the process of learning, because there are lots of things that as you're doing it, it's not going to sound good, but you'll be able to learn from it and apply it to the next one. Yeah, thinking of it as like a whole system and how you can best serve that system to best be effective in communicating what you want to communicate.
I love that. And I love how you like put like the explorer hat, because like once you kind of switch that mode on, it takes away the pressure of there being an outcome.
Totally. And that's one of the things I've been doing with my live streams that are really just a way to me to be like to have accountability and be like, get these things off of these hard drives. I have a whole bunch of top lines I've written that are just sleeping on hard drives. And what I'm doing with them is kind of just allowing them to unfold in a way that is organic to whatever the song is calling. And every day I work on it, I'm almost hearing different things. And that's fun. And that's cool to be able to refine my instinct and roll with it, you know?
Yeah.
That's fun. So trusting yourself is a big part of it. And the way you build trust within yourself is getting up after failing and trying. And the more you do that, you'll be like, oh, I got it. And with that, you'll feel a lot more confident in any sort of choice you make.
Did it take you like a long time, like in your career and journey, to like develop that outlook towards things? Was it like a certain experience that was like, okay, I just need to accept that failure is part of it? Or was it kind of just something you started with?
Oh, it was definitely through failing. Definitely through experience. I was super resistant. I was like, oh, I suck at singing. I want to get better. Oh, I suck at producing. I want to get better. Oh, like the only thing I think I have a natural talent for is songwriting, which is fantastic. I'd love to have at least one natural talent, so that's good. But it was a outlook that I had to adopt and also test in every aspect of my life, because it doesn't just apply to music. It's something that by allowing yourself to be almost like a student of life, you're able to then coast through it a lot better, because you're like, oh, that's an obstacle. What can I do to get over this obstacle? Oh, my studio isn't working. How do I fix this? And you then troubleshoot. It's if you get into a freeze state or a stressed out state every time something doesn't go right, life's going to be hard. You kind of have to learn that things are not going to go right, and that's okay. And it's part of life. Struggle is real.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a wonderful gift we have if we choose to look at it that way.
That's true. I also think like a lot of maybe the modern expectations of what life should be is like really social media is not doing that a service of like.
No, I totally agree with you. However, I would say what's really cool is I think a lot of people, because they're so inundated with it, they're now being like, huh, what's really important to me? Does this really give me like life to have this dopamine rush of social media all the time? Or is it something that will then inspire me to really connect humanly? Going back to being a human, like our magic powers, like being able to channel that and use that creatively. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough mirror, I think, for the world, but at the same time, that mirror really allows us to reflect on how we want to show up to it. Like this is the thing. It's either you're using it or it's using you, right? Same thing with music. Unless you are serving the music and serving your session, serving how you're recording, are you doing everything possible for that? The music isn't going to be able to take anyone anywhere, because you're not able to allow it to use you effectively as the tool for, like, you know, being the channel for it. It's interesting. But yeah, it can easily use you if you're not consciously using it.
So to sum up our episode of all amazing music things, I always love to ask our amazing guests to either drop a piece of advice or to say anything, doesn't have to be on topic, to the amazing Studio Animal viewers watching. Do you got something you want to say to the peoples?
Ooh, the peoples. Well, peoples, I'll say a few things. One, you're awesome. Humans are so cool and they're super underrated. And it's a wonderful experience to get to be alive and then also to get to be, you call them studio animals? Is that what you call them?
Yes, it's a safari pedal. It's a
okay,
safari
there we
pedals
go. There
thing.
we go. Yeah, totally. 100%. To get to be in the realm of audio, fantastic choice. So good on you for choosing that. Second thing, fail faster, as we've talked about a million times. And third thing, don't take yourself seriously. It's all, no one knows what they're doing. Like they might act and they might know what they're doing because they've done it a bunch of times, but it's only because they've done it a bunch of times or they learned how to do it. So everyone starts out being a total noob and sucking and not loving themselves for it. So it's important just to recognize we all start somewhere. So just dive in, and every day if you show up, like you'll get what you put into it. So the more you put in, the better it's going to be. And just gotta roll with it. And yeah, if ever anyone wants to send me fun things to listen to, I love that so much. And especially getting to be on a cool show like this. Thank you so much for having me, Abby and Noam. Really, really cool.
Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I'm really honored that you are here and that we have an episode. And I'm going to link all of your stuff down below. So guys, you know where to find her. Everything will be in the description. Thank you again. And I guess we can cut the edit seriousness there.
Notice you last. I thought I told him I'm coming right back. I got a flows like it came from the tap, and I came from my city. That's right on my back.